I'm going to officially welcome everybody here today for this Mindfulness in Schools project speaker event. I'm the CEO of Mindfulness in Schools project, which is an absolute pleasure, privilege. And in a moment, I'm going to hand over to a colleague who many of you will be familiar with. That's Faiy Rushton, who's our Education and Training Development Manager. But before that, I want to just set the scene, because there's been a long, winding, beautiful road to get to this point and to have this speaker event. And today is, I would like to think, as much a celebration as it is hopefully informative for everyone that's here today. Because we are absolutely delighted as Mindfulness in Schools project to welcome Sarah Silverton, who many of you know has been absolutely influential in the training and development of mindfulness. And you will hopefully be aware that Sarah and MiSP, so through the present and the Present for Schools curriculum in particular, Mindfulness in Schools project and the present have come together to form a collaboration, an official collaboration, so that we can hopefully between us pool our resources and we can really get the information out there about the present, and we can get more and more people signing up to that. And that the curricula, as we will hear tonight, are really meant to complement each other. And so it's an absolute delight and a celebration to have got to this point, both because I think the curricula really feed off each other, and with the feedback we get is that this can really support you hopefully in your teaching, your practice, but also I think for us as mindfulness organizations to really come together for the benefit of our beneficiaries. And that is also a cause for real celebration tonight. So I would really love to hand over to Faiy now, who will be in extremely safe hands to take us through this evening. And just to say, Faiy and I and Sarah have been involved, and when this was even an idea right at the beginning, just a tiny little twinkle in our eyes that this could actually happen, we began to think, and then maybe we could top it off with a speaker event. And this is it happening tonight. So welcome, and I hope you enjoy, and also that we remember to celebrate. And we'll see Sarah on the screen shortly as well. Thank you, Faiy.
Thank you. So just to say hi to everybody, it's really lovely to see you all here, familiar faces. And just to say that personally, this is a really lovely moment for me, because Sarah was my original MBSR teacher many years ago. And so it sort of started there. It just feels lovely to have this moment now and be sharing that with Sarah. Just before we kind of move into the session, I'm just going to give you a little bit of background to Sarah, so you kind of understand where Sarah has kind of come from, if you don't know much about her, but I'm sure you do. So Sarah is a renowned mindfulness teacher and co-author. In the mid-1990s, she was introduced to mindfulness and was trained by Mark Williams to teach mindfulness. Sarah studied at the Centre for Mindfulness, Massachusetts in 1999 with Melissa Blacker, John Kabat-Zinn and Florence Melio-Meyer, amongst others. Other significant teachers have included Ferris Urbanowski, Pam Erdman, David Reinick and Rebecca Crane. Sarah was a member of the core teaching and training team at the Centre for Mindfulness Research and Practice at Bangor University for 10 years after it was established in 2001. She taught and trained others through the CPD and Masters programmes. And she was also the co-author of Pawsby and .B Foundations for Mindfulness in Schools project. In 2016, she co-authored with Tabitha Sawyer and Asana Dorji, The Present for Schools. And in 2017, Living in the Present, a Wellbeing and Mindfulness course for adults. She supports mindfulness teachers through supervision and mindful movement retreats. She's a member of BAMBA and the Mindfulness Network, and a director both of the Present courses CIC and Sarah Silverton Mindfulness Limited. So just an incredible Like, here we go, introduction into kind of this work. And just to say that I'm the Education and Training Development Manager with Mindfulness in Schools project. I've been a trainer with them since 2015, but also have been a member of the core training team for the present since 2017. So I feel really sort of privileged actually to kind of be here at this moment and be able to explore kind of this collaboration together. So welcome, Sarah.
Thanks, Faiy. Yeah, it's wonderful to be here and great to be doing it with you. You know, we were saying that rather than a speaker event, it's much more of a conversation. So, you know, just a chance to really explore the essence of the present and how it fits with the MiSP courses. So, and just, you know, as Emily was saying, you know, it's taken a while to get to this process, and we very carefully and gently kind of worked our way here, and it feels right. Feels a really special moment to be able to celebrate bringing the courses together.
Yeah, thank you. Just to say, by the way, to everyone that we had our very first course that we ran last week. And I know I can see some people who were in that course. So just lovely to see you again and to know that you were our first cohort for the present in association with MiSP. So thank you very much for being here as well. So I've got here a practice, Sarah, on our kicking us off.
Yeah, we were saying that, you know, it's often these things are not very easy to talk about, but they're much better to just have a taste of. So let's begin with a taste of a here and now practice, and we'll explain the kind of different themes a bit later on. So without needing to change your posture in any way, just really bringing your curiosity, your awareness, your noticing to the experience of sitting. So here you are on your chair. And just feeling what that's like, just to show up for the experience of how you're sitting right now. So nothing to correct, no way that you need to improve what you're doing, unless you notice that you're very uncomfortable for some reason, then of course fine to move. But first, just awareness, what's showing up for you? Maybe sensations of contact, of touch of one foot, both feet on the floor, the weight of your body on your chair, touch of your hands somewhere on your lap, on the table. And dropping below that cognitive knowing that this is true to actually feeling it, sensing the touch. So what are you noticing? What's here? Maybe sensations of touch are not what you're noticing first. Maybe things you see or sounds in the room or beyond the room. This possibility of just allowing your awareness to notice what it notices, to open to what the senses are receiving. And nothing you need to do just now other than to have a friendly interest, a warm curiosity to whatever your experience is right now. And maybe there's something else to notice, something that hasn't been clear to you just now, maybe a different sensation that's arising in the body, maybe the sensation of movement of breath, maybe the touch of air on the skin somewhere that you're only just noticing, sound somewhere in the distance, vibrations in the air. Maybe if your eyes are open, a detail of something in the room or beyond. So it's choosing to be here in this moment with what's already here for us just now. Opening to this. Curiosity about how this unfolds. Moment by moment, different noticing perhaps. Simply being with. If you've had your eyes closed just now, then maybe gently inviting you to blink them open and let's have a look around the room that you're in and maybe beyond the room if that feels good. And at some point coming back to the screen. So maybe as you come back to the screen, kind of watching if you shift into a doing, into a kind of busy mind, and maybe just begin to see other people, see their faces. Perhaps read names if you haven't done that yet. Seeing whether this noticing, just being with, can continue as we carry on with this event. And watch how it switches in and out. It will be here for moments and then maybe gone again.
Thank you. That's a good way to open. Properly open. Yeah, thank you. So I wonder if we could, I've got some questions here and I'm hoping they're questions that anyone who knows something about both MiSP and the present would be interested to know some of the answers to. So the first question I have here is something around how the present approach began. So what was it that sort of started this?
Yeah, Dusana Dorji, who's the neuroscientist that we were working with both Poresby and the present, got offered some funding to look at developing a mindfulness curriculum for early years, which hadn't been done at that point, and it just wasn't the right time for MiSP to get involved then. So we agreed that we'd go away and do that independently. So it was in the kind of having a look at early years classrooms and seeing what they were doing and how they lived their lives in school, that the ideas for the present developed, because it was really clear that everything they were doing could also be a mindfulness practice for adults. They spent their days doing activities that could be mindfulness, but watching them do it, it was rarely mindful. So it was kind of, oh, so it's not the activity then, so much as what we bring to that activity that makes it mindfulness. So that's where the seeds began, really. And thinking of, some of you will know the Shauna Shapiro triangle, where there's intention, attention, and awareness as the kind of core elements of mindfulness practice. So it was kind of, oh, so this is how they live their lives. So how do we then encourage them to be more mindful as they're living their lives in school? And And how do we introduce these three elements to that experience? So that's where it began. Yeah.
Yeah, lovely. And I wonder if you wouldn't mind just sort of sharing sort of broadly what the approach is, both for adults, children and young people, perhaps some of the sort of key features of the approach.
So one of the key things that it kind of developed for adults from recognising that some people just weren't ready to commit to an 8-week course. They were often had been sent by school, by different organisations, and weren't yet kind of convinced that this was something that would be helpful for them. So we realised that actually quite a few people weren't practising. As the course went on, they weren't doing home practice. They were quite sceptical, a bit resistant. So we started realising that actually these weren't just difficult courses, you know, they weren't difficult groups, but we weren't offering them what they needed. So we kind of stepped back and wondered, well, so, you know, given what we were doing with the early years, was there something that we could develop for adults that was similar? And so it became much more about wondering how this might fit in your life initially. So less focus on formal practice initially, but helping people to really wonder about it, be able to practice in ways that didn't ask them to put aside a lot of time that they weren't willing to do, and just beginning to see the relevance of it for them. You know, where was this going to fit for them? Where would it support them? And we're kind of keen that this was going to be about all moments in life. So, you know, quite often people would feedback that they'd been kind of skimming past the lovely moments in their lives because their attention had been somewhere else. And that was the first thing that they were enjoying about it. Oh, actually, you know, I was with my dog when I went for a walk, or I was in the garden and noticing rather than off thinking about a meeting that had happened before. So it's about kind of connecting it, helping people feel that it's relevant, making it as accessible as possible. And for each of the schools and the adult programme, there are 7 themes that run through the course. So each of the themes kind of offers a window into greater awareness. So here and now, you did the practice just now with me, that's the first theme. But it just gives an opportunity to kind of go, oh, so what's this? What's my experience? And how do I practice curiosity? How do I practice interest? How do I practice not fixing, not making things different all the time, but just kind of being with things as they unfold, noticing experience, being in the present moment. But the other bit that's felt really important is to make it very, very much about kind of connected to everything we do. So, you know, how do we bring awareness to all sorts of moments in our lives, you know, the gorgeous ones and the challenging ones and the boring ones in the middle, you know, and knowing that we could always choose to be more mindful, whatever we're doing. You know, it's not dependent on having a cushion or a recording that kind of guides us through it. You know, we can choose this ourselves and practice showing up for our moments. What else, Faiy?
Well, I was just thinking about kind of how, for me, the approach kind of really sort of helped with kind of that we always say there's no right or wrong, but there's, you know, more emphasis as well, I think, through this approach on kind of how we're relating to our experiences, to other people, to ourselves.
It's always surprised me, you know. I think it's interesting that you know, the definition of mindfulness that John Kabat-Zinn, you know, all those years ago, was always, it's the awareness that arises from paying attention in the present moment. You know, and often the awareness that arises from gets lost in the definition, doesn't it? So it's kind of coming back to, you know, actually that's what it's all about. It's about awareness. It's about, you know, bringing that into our everyday lives. And we, of course, we can practice formally, and, you know, we can do meditation practices as ways of developing certain skills to be able to be more aware and curious and, you know, noticing more in our lives. But it doesn't have to be formal practice that lets that happen. And the piece, I think, you know, we were saying about, you know, people can get very stuck on I mustn't be judgmental. If I'm a mindfulness person, I must be patient, I must be non-judgmental, I must be, you know, I must have trust all the time, you know, and there are these kind of, and you know, I think they were never meant to be goals. You know, they were meant to be somewhere to lean towards, and, you know, and have a little bit more of that in our hearts. But I think when we're learning this, we can get very kind of, oh, you know, you're not being very mindful. You know, somebody spots, the mindfulness police spot me, they'll know that I was impatient at traffic lights, or, you know, hope nobody saw that, you know. But with this approach, we're really hoping that we can have a friendly awareness to that. Oh, look at me being really impatient. And there's a really important decentering that happens with that, isn't there, of just letting people, you know, letting us watch ourselves, and the person that's watching us is kindly and accepting, and maybe there's some humor there, you know. Oh wow, look at me go. You know, rather than, oh no, you know, don't do that, can be a different person, you know, deal with this differently. And I think in that process then, more patience arises, or less judgment, or, you know, whatever it is we're noticing that we want to be better at. You know, we're bringing this decentered awareness that in itself is a kind of mindful companion, I think.
Yeah, that's a lovely way of thinking about it. That sense of having a friend alongside, you know, not without necessarily a super critical eye.
Yeah, just that kind of, oh look, you know, look what we're doing. You know. Yeah.
I know, it was interesting actually, because on the training last week I was saying that humour plays a really big part in all of that for me. The ability to sort of smile at what I'm doing when I catch myself, you know, just a real kind of like, oh, look. And with, you know, just a kind of like, well, of course, because I'm a human being, you know, it's just that acceptance and understanding that can be really helpful.
Yeah.
One of the things that I know that you sort of like talk about with the approach is this idea of a continuum in relation to that. So it's kind of, you know, not that we're either patient or we're impatient, but that we're kind of sort of, that ability to sort of decenter and observe means that we can just notice where we are on a kind of sliding scale,
and flavors of it. You know, there might be a kind of particular hot impatience, or, you know, or a kind of sad, frustrated, you know, so we can feel the difference in our experience as we notice it, can't we? And, you know, oh, this is a 10 out of 10 one, or maybe only 3, you know, but kind of feeling, oh, what's this like, instead of needing to kind of push it away.
Yeah. And on that, I wonder if we could have another practice, if that's okay with you.
Yeah, sure.
Thank you.
So let's do, what should we do? Should we do a focusing practice? Yeah. So do you want to choose something that's nearby that you're going to focus on? So it doesn't need to be, it could be something internal, it could be an object, it could be something that's outside the room, a sound, or and again, you know, it's interesting to watch the process of all of this, isn't it? It's kind of, oh, am I, you know, how do I pick the best one? It really doesn't matter, you know, it's just having something, something that you're focusing on. So just kind of bringing awareness to the object, or the, whether that's an internal experience, external experience, or a thing in the room. And just beginning to explore. So how curious am I at the moment about this object? So maybe actually not very curious. There's not a lot of interest about this just now. In which case, just noticing that, or choosing something else if you want to. But that kind of just, oh, how am I meeting this? The intention of the practice is to practice focusing. So how is that just now? In terms of continuum, where am I in my curiosity, in my attention with this chosen object? And again, you might notice some judgments, some criticism, some wondering about how good you're being at doing this task, at this practice. Maybe the mind's all over the place and it's away with what's happened previously in the day, what's happening later. So maybe it's okay just to hold that, just to notice, oh, busy mind. Maybe just inviting the mind back from time to time to the object, to be asking yourself some questions about the object. Oh, what's this? What are its features? What are its characteristics? Maybe there are textures and colours and shapes and vibrations of sound, maybe. Maybe there's a way to kind of encourage your curiosity just now. Maybe if it's a physical object, picking it up, or if it's an internal object, perhaps asking yourself some questions about particular aspects of your experience as it unfolds. We're just noticing the object, but noticing ourselves as we meet this. How am I? What is this? And sometimes as we notice that our focus is a bit wobbly or unreliable just now, that we become aware that we're tired, or maybe we're hungry. So bringing awareness to the whole of us as we explore the experience of focusing. And then just to be playful. So intentionally now shifting to be good at focusing on this. So see what it's like just to kind of, okay, now we're going to do it really well. Going to be really grade A mindfulness students, and we're going to focus fully and notice everything about this object. Just see how that feels. What's that like? Okay. So let's let go of that and come back to having a conversation together.
Thanks, Sarah. I had a really funny experience just then where when I was trying to be really good at focusing was when I was getting really distracted. I could almost feel like I was sort of pushing against wanting to be really focused.
Batting away distractions.
Yeah, what is this? What am I doing? Yeah, thank you. Okay, so I wonder if you could just share a little bit about the Present for Schools programme. How is it introduced to students? And if you wouldn't mind saying a little bit about that, great.
Yeah, so there's 7 themes that kind of run through both programmes. So we start with here and now, then there's focusing, to get the right order right for the schools, then there's some choosing, connecting. Lost the order. Choosing, connecting, humour body, humour mind, noticing change. It's a different order for the adults, and I've been doing that more recently. So that, as I said, those are the kind of windows to explore. They run that each theme is delivered over a couple of weeks. So there's plenty of time within, the school day, within time in school to kind of really explore it and have some different experiences, different ways of noticing. That we have what we call 4 opportunities. So there are 4 different ways that we invite the programme to be delivered. So there's a neuroscience element, so some information about the brain, and this is offered through a story. So it's a story that kind of builds for each of the 4 age groups of the programme, through the 7 themes. So there's a story about 2 characters and something they're doing, and so relating the theme to their experience. So we kind of try and make the stories as kind of accessible for the children of that age. So, again, that's kind of with the intention of making it feel relevant, making it feel it's about them. It's not something they're just learning, but they really want to, oh yeah, that would be true for me if I was going to a swimming pool or, in a party or whatever it might be. So that's the first way, and that there's some PowerPoint slides, and there's some information that can be shared in a more didactic way. But the stories can be quite playful, and then they're not long stories, so they can be shared easily at different points during the day. There are also then the materials have lots and lots of suggestions of different ways that you might want to offer experiences of the different themes for the different age groups. And it's been interesting that although we thought that the suggestions would be just for that age group, lots of people kind of pick one from a younger age group and just kind of make it age appropriate for older children. So actually there are lots of different suggestions. They're only suggestions of how you might want to do this. One of the things that we really wanted this to be was a chance for teachers to be creative themselves and choose something that would really fit for the class they have. So the idea is kind of, and in the notes there are blank spaces where you can put your own ideas and ones that work well that you tried. So that's the second way, and you might call those practices or just activities, or a chance to have the experience of the theme. The third way is to intentionally bring the theme learning into everyday school learning. So we've had some lovely examples of that where kind of wow words have kind of been celebrated through mindfulness, and different issues that come up in learning. That's the chance to just kind of check in, or what's here, transitions around the classroom. There's all sorts of times when, you know, as part of this kind of school, the standard school curriculum, that this might be linked. And then the fourth way, and this feels really important to me, because it feels like it brings it beyond school as well, is to connect it to just everyday life in school. So the moving around, the, you know, having a snack or a drink, conversations, the playtime, you know, so all of these are intentionally a chance to offer the theme and have an experience of that, and then have conversations about that together. So, you know, really kind of, oh, so what did you notice? And, you know, and it not being like a formal inquiry, you know, where kind of there's a right, feels like there might be a right answer, but just to kind of, you know, a sharing of, oh, well, I noticed this, and what did you notice? And so a kind of friendly opening to what's been noticed.
Yeah, great, thank you. And the next question I have is about how the MiSP curricula and the present, you know, what do they have in common? What are their links? I mean, for me, the most obvious one is that yourself, Tabitha, and Dasana were involved in the development of both. Poolsby was obviously based on .B, and you were involved in the development for primary. But just what other links would you say there are there between the two curricula?
I mean, they were designed to go together, but they, you know, so I think the learning is the same, but you know, it's just a different way in. So that, you know, we're really encouraging teachers and children to bring more mindful awareness to their lives, to wonder whether this is something that might be supportive for them, encourage them to practice in ways that will be good for them and their families, you know, something that hopefully they will grow over time, and, you know, they get more confident as they get older. And, you know, when we know at secondary, it's, you know, there's more challenges, and so hopefully got some foundations of mindfulness practice to kind of use at those moments. I think, you know, I think both really wanted this to be fun and something to explore and be interested in, and, you know, really want it to be something that you know, children welcome, and, you know, really feels like it's something that adds to their day and their school life, and that's certainly what we've heard for both. So yeah.
And I was thinking, oh, sorry, carry on.
Yeah, what about you?
Yeah, no, I was just going to say that kind of the pathway is similar in the sense that, you know, we want people to have developed their own practice first, and hopefully, you know, that in itself has instilled a passion to want to share it. And that's what's motivated people to come and train in either the present for schools or in Poolsby or any of the other MiSP curricula. And which, of course, we know is kind of the recommended route for sort of teaching and training. And then I was thinking about embodiment, actually, just as a kind of follow-on as part of that, is just that we teach from our own mindfulness practice. And so how important it is that we are exploring this ourselves. So that when we're working with children, we can go, oh yeah, we can feel the familiarity of the things that feel tricky and the things that feel joyful about practice.
Yeah, absolutely. And I think that's something for both programs, you know, that kind of opportunity to share practice together, you know. I mean, I know, you know, schools can be horrendous. It's a very full-on place, isn't it? So just to be able to have moments of practice together, you know, that's for both, you know, adults and the children, it's can make the day much more manageable, can't it?
Yeah. Well, quite lovely to kind of think that, I mean, one of my favourite things is when I hear about children telling teachers to practice, It's just always just so funny. Go and do a, you know, a dot B, or go and do a here and now practice. Is
Breathe, miss.
breathe. I love that. Oh no, yeah, I wasn't. Thank you. Yeah.
And
So,
I think both, you know, what we're looking for is not just a short term, you know, we'll just have a taste of this and then it's done, you know, but really hoping that you know, after the introduction, there's a way of it carrying on, a way of it growing, a way of it being kind of you know, collaborative development that's is owned by everybody then, isn't it? And it, you know, really feel it through school.
yeah, and I think part of that is improving access to it as a practice and making it as accessible as we can, you know, thinking about the adaptations you might need to make for students with different needs and trauma-informed practice. All of this, I know, are kind of common things that are part of both programmes, like woven through training, but also in the support sessions that are offered after, discussions around those things. So that's kind of part of it as well in terms of ownership, isn't it? You've got to give children a way into it, and for different children it'll be different things. So just respecting that and being open to exploring that with them.
And I think there's something, you know, something about just letting children feel safe to choose the way they want to practice. You know, that I think that's really, you know, really lovely to kind of for them to feel that they've got ownership of it's my practice and I'm going to do it this way. You know, so, yeah.
I was thinking that kind of the pathways work that I know you know is, and many people know, is kind of my thing, and I'm really sort of open to sort of exploring all the ways in which we can support people with kind of making it accessible, but also, as you were saying about longevity, you know, this idea that hopefully it will be something that is with them for life. And that comes through support for teachers as well as support for students as well, you know, so it's kind of, we reach the students through supporting the teachers usually. And there's that interrelationship between the teacher's practice and, you know, sorry, I've just sort of cycled around again back to that. Yeah, that relationship is really key.
There's lots of evidence, isn't there, that, you know, anybody that practices mindfulness, even without mentioning the M word, you know, the people they're working with, you know, whether they're carers or teachers, you know, people benefit from their practice. So, you know, just having the opportunity to share that and be more mindful during the day, you know, especially in a full-on environment of a school, it's makes a big difference, doesn't it? Yeah.
So I have another question, which is about how they're different. But I think, you know, one of the, just to, I'm aware of time and the fact that it'd be really lovely to talk about how they'd work together and bring a bit more of that in. So just to share that from my perspective, it's very much to do with just that they're offered slightly differently, maybe at the beginning, that often MiSP curricula are offered in a kind of session or, you know, lesson-based introduction to the practice, with the intention that the children, young people, will continue to practice outside of the sessions at home and in the rest of their school life, and that will continue. And as we were hearing from you about kind of the introduction of the present, there are just a few different kind of ways in that aren't necessarily through a lesson or session introduction. So it can be a session or a lesson. It's more kind of created by the teacher in that first instance. So I wonder if it's okay to kind of leave that there and actually move into just talking about how they could work together. Now, one of the lovely things, and I'll come to this in a second, is that we've got lots of evidence of people within our community who are already using both. So we can talk about that, but just what are your thoughts about that?
Yeah, I think, you know, we'd always hope that they're just different ways into the same thing. So, you know, and I know that, you know, some teachers are more drawn to a more delivered approach, you know, having a lesson base, that feels kind of their thing. Other people are much more wanting to, bring it into everyday life more. So I think just having different ways in means people can choose what suits them well. And I know, sometimes there just isn't space in the curriculum. So, if that's true and, all the senior management aren't particularly supportive just now, then it doesn't stop somebody beginning to be more mindful in their classroom. But I think kind of, the flip side, if people begin with pause B or dots and then, this will really give them lots of information to be able to carry it on way beyond, the time that the curriculum's kind of delivered. And I know people have been really motivated to carry on, but then are kind of, I don't know what to do. And then when you're busy, it's difficult to kind of be that creative in those moments. So having some resources that will just help people bring it into other moments. And I know Tabitha Sawyer, when she was teaching year 6, she brought it into lots of quite tricky moments for her year 6 group, some social media difficulty that happened, going away on residentials, and just kind of, okay, so what theme would be really supportive just now, so they might choose a practice that they knew from Poresby, but then learning the theme really help them open to having more awareness and taking care of themselves better in the moments of difficulty or joy. There was some parties and end of term things. So I think they're just resources that would work together really well. What's your thought? You've done both.
Yeah, no, I kind of think that it's kind of always lovely to have your initial learning as your kind of, your introduction, but then coming back and looking at similar kind of learning or themes, but from a kind of different angle, just gives you a different perspective. And I kind of think I can really see how both work together, because it's like a little bit like when you come and do a training. So we've talked about this before, I know, but when you come and do a training, so even though you understand the learning that is mindfulness learning, you come and do a training and you can just feel the penny dropping in different ways. So each time you visit the material, it's kind of doing that. And I was thinking I've had that with all of the MiSP curricula training, and I had it also with the present training as well. So I'm sure it's the same for children and young people too, that's kind of like that there will be some pennies that drop just by looking at it from a slightly different way that maybe didn't land the first time. And then there'll be other things that were really key pieces of learning that came the first time that were introduced through the curricula. So yeah, just nice to kind of know as well that with the pathways work, that learning, there's more resources and chance to kind of like keep that practice developing and growing as time goes on as well, using the MiSP curricula and the present together. So yeah, I'm excited actually I know that we've got there's a really lovely, I think she's a deputy head teacher, Zahara, who works in a school in Wales, and she spoke at a recent Mindfulness Wales event where she talked about using both the MiSP curricula and the present together in her setting, and I found it really inspiring actually to hear that she kind of look at how they kind of work together. So yeah, really exciting.
Yeah, and I think that the point about trauma sensitive working and just really meeting everyone where they are, that if you've got that flexibility of information, you can tailor it then, can't you, to who you've got in the room. And and you might start with one and you might start the other way, and but when you know your class, what might be a good way in, don't you? It might be more action-based version, or it might be more lesson-based.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And above all, and I'm really sort of aware that I feel like we say this a lot these days, but just, you know, it being playful, it being fun, it not being like serious, contemplative, you know, kind of, you know, being still and quiet. That there's something about just that expression being alive and knowing it, but life in the aliveness, you know. And of course, children are perfect examples of seeing all of that life. You know, they're just great for kind of the energy that they bring, and you know, we wouldn't want to change them, would we?
I remember some year one children that were doing a practice of watching each other and observing each other's faces, and this little boy was right up her nose, you know, kind of looking at her face and noticing her freckles, and then just absolutely joyous about how beautiful her freckles were, and how he could see the light through her hair, and you know, and it was just delightful. It's so lovely, isn't it? And that's kind of infectious in the room, isn't it? You know, for somebody and whatever they've noticed being perfect, that's what I noticed, and I'm proud of it. You know, it's really lovely.
You reminded me of the fact that when I first started teaching this, it was with autistic students, and they were not quite so complimentary. Kind of like, oh, you have very curly hair. It was, yeah, they're noticing what tended to be things they thought were wrong with me. Just funny. Anyway. Okay, I can see where we're up to time-wise, and I'm aware that, you know, we've not got very long left. So thank you. Anyway, just want to say thank you to you for doing this. Really appreciate it. And just wondered, I know that we probably haven't got a lot of time for answering questions, but if you wanted to, you could pop a question in, and myself and Sarah might be able to do something together that we could send out to you with the recording. So if you've got anything that you'd like to ask, feel free to pop something in the chat, and we can look at it and get back to you with some responses to any questions you might have. Both curriculum is equally appropriate for both internal and external teachers. Do they both work for both?
Yeah. I think we have found, yes, that they can both be offered by external teachers. You know, that's been, we've got lots of evidence of that. I think you know, obviously the teacher in the classroom has more opportunities. So, you know, they're with their children in the class all day, aren't they? So the kind of chance to you know, weave it in where's the best moments in the day, and you know, there's perhaps more opportunity, but it's certainly possible. Yeah.
Yeah, it is possible. Just to say, Nicole, that it just involves a little bit of a creation of a session using the materials. Whereas obviously with the MiSP curricula, it's kind of all laid out for you. You need to kind of decide what you're going to offer, how you're going to offer it, and it will depend on how much time you're given by the setting that you're going to be working with. So, but yes, it does work for both.
I think something to say there, if we can, is, you know, just that this is all about being human, isn't it? So we don't want it to be a program that's about offering children with particular difficulties, you know, something special. You know, I think in its best way, it's you know, people learn really well by seeing how different everybody is and how similar everybody is, and you know, so just to really encourage people to do it with a whole class rather than a selected few, if that's what's been suggested by school. I don't know if I would agree with that.
Yeah. And just with an eye on time, I can see that, yeah, that's an okay response for the Nicole there. And yeah, thank you, Teresa. She just said thank you there. I appreciate the focus on playfulness, flexibility, responsive teaching. And Emily said, do you think one curricula or the other is more useful potentially for parents? And personally, just for me, I would say I think both in different ways, actually. But I'm aware that it's 8 o'clock, so apologies for not kind of going into more detail, but I'm quite happy to kind of do that afterwards.
Yeah. I think it's kind of letting people choose a way in, isn't it? It's what would fit you best. Yeah.
Yeah, I can see the rest of the questions coming through actually. So if you're okay with that, we will sort of bring this session to a close, and we will respond to some of these questions and pop them into a document that can go out with the recording when that goes out. So thank you very much for asking the questions. I really appreciate the interest. And yeah, just a big thank you from me personally, and also on behalf of MiSP to Sarah for coming and doing the event this evening.